You guys hear me? Okay. Can the translators hear me? Okay, that's great. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. I know it's have been a very, very long day. I have been presented at the B Showcase since the start, since the first edition. That means, if it's not wrong, this is my sixth or seventh edition that I've been here in Japan. It's always an honor to be here, and Japan is one of my favorite countries that I want to be always. And today's session, I will be talking about a journey to the future, discovering Oracle Developer Cloud Services and more. When I talk about more, I mean the title is a little bit confused sometimes, but it's teach a little bit about version control systems, learn a little bit more about what is available, and also about the new offering from Oracle called Oracle Developer Cloud Services that is a plus. How many people in the room know about Git? Okay, great. That means that will be the session for you. A little bit about myself. My name is Francisco Munoz Alvarez. I'm an Oracle ACE Director since the year 2009. And also I became an ACE back in 2008. If not wrong, I was the 23rd person in the world to receive the Oracle ACE Directory status. I haven't been working with Oracle since version 6. Version 5. I was part of the first team to introduce Oracle to Latin America. And I was also the first person in Latin America to become an Oracle Database Administrator Certified Master. This is basically the versions of Oracle and the products. I have been a beta tester. I have been a beta tester since version 7. I also been the president of many user groups around the world, including the Australian, the Umbrella user group that support all user groups in Asia Pacific, APACO UC, the Chilean user group, CLOG in South America, and also the New Zealand Oracle user group. I have received a few awards during my career, and also been presented over 442 sessions at 48 countries around the world. And I just came back basically a few days ago from presented in the Oracle Open World in San Francisco. This is my blog, oraclenz.com. You can also use it .net or .org. They take out my blog. My Twitter handler is FCO Munoz. I try to avoid the most I can to tweet about marketing or sales. I don't like to do that. You're going to see me tweeting about webinars, videos, tutorials, everything that you can go learn and practice without somebody trying to sell something for you. That's basically my main work together with our user groups around the world. My email is alvarez@clouddb.solutions in case you want to get in contact with me. Also, I'm leaving my business cards here in the front in case you want to take one. Feel free. This is the book, the first book released with Oracle 12c that was written by me, Oracle Database 12c, Backup and Recovery Survival Guide. And I'm currently the CEO of CloudDB, a company of professional and managed services, and we also are developing some SaaS products in the moment, software as a service. And there we go. Come back. Now it's working again. And I don't like to do marketing or talk too much about sales. That's why I'm going to pass very fast through these slides about my company. We basically offer services, everything from monitoring, alerting, managed services, consulting, project consulting, and also cloud as a service on Oracle Cloud, AWS, Google, and Azure. And we also have a top expertise working in the company with the top professional certifications in the world. Most of them being community leaders as ACA directors of Microsoft MVPs. As I mentioned before, our company headquarters are in Brisbane. We have office also in Sydney and Perth, Auckland, New Zealand, and also we just opened the San Francisco office in the United States, and the London office in UK is opening in two more months. Just a little bit more about our services, but let's go for what we straight to the topic today. The first thing I'm going to talk is about Git and why we use it. Then we'll talk about discovering developer cloud services. And if I have a time, we're going to do a little demo showing the how to manage the SQL code with SQL Developer and Developer Cloud Services. But just in the first two topics, we have tons of things to talk. Okay, let's talk about Git. Git is a version control system. It's a local version control system. Then you can go and download anytime from this web page. If you go to that web page, you can get some very interesting reference information like cheat sheets. You have a free book all about Git called ProGit that you can download for free. Of course, you can download right here the product, Git. And you have many videos, tutorial videos that tell you all about Git. If you scroll down, you're still having a lot more information again. And you can see in download page, you can install Git for basically any OS available in the market. Linux, Windows, and so on. When we talk about Git, it's very important to understand first the difference between a central version control system and a distributed version control system. In the past, many people worked with a product called SVN that was a central version control system. Basically, you have a centralized repository when this keep the version of everything that's changing. All your version control is here, and that get pushed to the nodes. The problem working with a central version control system is if you lose the central repository, you lost everything. Hopefully, you have a backup of this to recover from. If not, you could be in trouble. To solve these kind of problems, distributed version control systems were created, where the most important and well-known in the market is Git. This is where now you have a repository on each node. That means in your laptop, anyone doing changes in the code have now their own repository, and they are on sync with each other, even if you're using like GitLab, GitHub, a central repository in the cloud. They are all connected and they are on sync. Now, if you lose your main central repository in the cloud, let's say, every node have a copy of the repository and they are in sync. That means it's very easy to recover from that, and everyone has a copy of all the changes that are happening in any company. As per example, he is working in doing changes in application. He's working in doing changes application. I am also working doing changes in the application. We are all working as a team. All the changes I do will get replicated to their local repositories. All the changes he do get pushed to our local repositories, and everybody is in sync. And we can see the history and the difference of the changes happening across time. When we are working with a Git repository, I work with my local repository on my machine. That will be basically the working directory, where I start doing changes to the code. When you do the changes to the code, when I change, let's see, a line or anything on my file, that could change will be a push to the staging area. That tells me in the repository that a change happened. Now, I will review that change. I will see that was done properly, everything as I wanted, I tested, it's working fine. Now I can commit, and when I commit, only then the changes are pushed from my staging area, from my Git directory, my own local repository, get confirmed as a change. It's like a commit in a database that the change is not visible to everyone until you do a commit. It's kind of the same principle right here. That change is not approved and visible to anybody else until you do a commit of that change. This is some commands, basic commands and configuration when you install Git in your local machine. A lot of people ask me, oh, Francisco, I don't care about the line commands. I will use the GUI interface. GUI means graphic user interface. Using your mouse, using the interface. The problem is, not always you will have access to the graphic interface for ABC reason. That's why I always recommend to learn command line 2. When you download from the gitscm.com website the product for your operation system and you install, the first thing you will do to see and know if this properly installed and running is run git -- version. If that give you output showing the version of Git currently used, it means good to go. Second thing that I recommend you to do is configure your Git installation to know who you are. For that, I will use the git config command, -- global username, where I enter your name, and then also the same with your user email. That means now they will know that you are Francisco, this is your email, and every time I do a change, they will put who did it, and let everybody know who did that change. If I want to know and check all the configuration changes I did on my Git repository, I do the command git config -- list. And they will show all the configurations done to my local repository. Now I want to initialize my Git repository locally. I will do the command git init. That will initialize, and I will see now in the folder that I'm staying, that will be my Git repository, you will see a folder called .git. If you see that folder, you have the Git setup that running. If I want to uninstall the Git on that folder that I am in, I just need to delete that folder. That's it. rm-rf.git, he will remove. Oh, that was a mistake. I want to install the Git again. I just do git init, and he will create the repository again. Now, technically, if I'm going to use a Git, I will be the first one, or somebody else also have a repository, and I want to connect to that one and create my clone to start working. If you use a central repository like GitHub, GitLab, all I'm going to do is do the command git clone URL, or the source, it can be a folder too, and where to clone, like the dot. In this example, I'm giving git clone a specific directory in the server folder and to my local location right now. He will clone that repository to my local area, and now I have the external one and a copy of all the files for me to start working with. If I want to see all the remote repositories that I have or working with, I do the command git remote -v, and he show me the list of all repositories I'm connected. If I want to work with branches and I want to see how branches I connected and working with, I will do git branch -a. Anyone knows the difference between repositories and branches? Okay. Let's say I work in the application and I have my own repository. But now I want to, don't touch on that. I will keep my repository safe, but I want to work on specific things. Let's see, I work in a new functionality. And then I want to create a branch, like a mini repository inside mine, that only I can access, call the new functionality name. I will connect to that branch, and I will do the changes. Now, they will work exactly the same way as a repository, but when I commit, they will commit in that branch, and then I need to push that change now to my local repository. Then they can push to everybody else. That means that a branch allow me to work in things specifics without affect everybody else and keep them organized. When I work in the repository, I have a few commands that I can use. As per example, git help, Git help, when I need to get help for anything that I needed, in case I want to help about configuration, the command I have right here, I can use git help config or git config -- help. Any way it works. If I want help about commands, I git help commands. It will show all the commands you can use. If you want a specific information about a command, you put git help and the command right here. Let's see, config, push, or so on. And they will give you all that information. If you want to see the status of your Git repository, you get git status. That will show you what change was done, what's committed, what's not committed, and also will show you if you have any files to be ignored. If I have, let's see, what's that ignore? Okay. I have many files on my repository, but I have some files that I do not want Git to manage, Git to control. I want Git to ignore that files. Any change I do to that files get ignored. For that, I do the command touch.gitignore. He will open an editor, and as a text, I will enter the details of the files I want Git to ignore. I can even use wildcards like star.extension that I want Git to ignore all files with that extension, one example. Then I save, if I use in Linux like a vi double.x, and now I have that file, and Git will ignore all the files that I'm telling him to ignore inside git ignore. I can also use git diff. Git diff will show all the changes that were made from my previous commits, showing before and after the lines that were changed in the specific files. If I create a new file on my local repository and I want to add that file to be controlled by Git, I do git add and the file name. If I change my mind and before I do anything, I want to remove that file that I just added, I do git reset and the file name. But what happens if I have many files that I created and I use it, I will not do one by one. Then I do git add minus capital A. He will add all the files that I added at once. In the same way, if I want to remove all the files I add in once, I can do by doing git reset. Git reset will reset the last files that were added. As we mentioned, when we do a change in a file, they are in the workstation. We want to basically save it to our local repository as a real change. I'll use the command git commit. As a best practice, I always recommend to use the -m for a message and add a message. That's important because you need to tell everyone what that change is about. I'm changing the function x. This will allow the people to know what that change is about. If you want to see how the changes done in your repository and who did it, you do git log. You show all the log information in the logs. Before I push all the changes from my local repository to all other repositories we are working as a team. As a best practice, I always recommend you to pull out first to see if anyone did any change that's committed and save it to be added to your repository before you push. For that, you do the command git pull origin to master. Origin will be your central repository using. Many times is one in the internet, such as GitLab, GitHub. Master is the principal or your master repository in your local machine. Then I will push now to everyone all the changes I commit to allow everyone to know the changes I did and do the changes on their files. There will be the git push origin master. Also, as I mentioned, you can create branches as little version or little changes you're doing inside your repository. To create a branch, I will do the command git branch and the name you want to give to that branch, like version 2.01 or incident 1051, an incident that you have a bug that you're fixing. But you need to create the branch, but now you need to connect to the branch. To connect to the branch, you git checkout branch name. Why? Because you're doing a git checkout. You're checking out of your master to change to your new one that is the branch name you created. Now, when I do the changes on my branch in the code over there, I need now to push from my local branch to my master local repository. For that, I will use the command git push -u origin and the branch name. And then I can do the push origin to the master to propagate the change to all repositories of the team. Now, when we talk about Git, it's very common then the people start confusing Git with products like GitHub or GitLab. Let's clear that misconception. To start, Git is a revision or version control system, is a tool to manage your source code history. That's what I said, Git is a tool. But the other side, GitHub is a hosting server for Git repositories. GitHub is a service or project that uses Git. In other words, Git is the tool that manages the version control. GitHub is a product that works around Git. Work around giving new functionalities. The Git, because Git only cares about control the versioning changes, but GitHub will push that to the next level, giving like user management functionalities. You can have wiki, change control, other things that are built on top of Git. As per example, Git is installed locally in your place that you're working with the code. GitHub is hosted in the cloud as a software as a service. Git was released in 2005. GitHub was launched in 2008. Come after Git as a complement. Git is an open sourcing product maintained by the Linux Foundation. GitHub was purchased by Microsoft in 2018. Git is primary aligned command tool when GitHub is a web interface. Git, as per example, have no user management features, but when GitHub has built on them. Thing that's important is open source Git. That means it's free. GitHub include a free version that's not very useful. If you want to take our advantage, you need to pay for it. GitHub was purchased in 2018, as I mentioned, by Microsoft, if I'm not wrong, for $7.5 billion. That's easy changes you're going to see. Now we have what the heck is DevCS, or Developer Cloud Services. Developer Cloud Services is a product developed by Oracle to be used in the Oracle Cloud, and it's free if you use in Oracle Cloud. He worked the same way that GitHub with Git, but is the equivalent for Oracle on steroids. They put a lot more things on it, and it's free. They have many benefits. They allow you to do versioning, improve development, and improve also team collaboration that allow you to do things like activity stream, wiki, and web dashboard, but also include automation with the Oracle Cloud that you can easily create development environments, test environments, production from your console, pushing the versionings and everything you have right there. Allow you to create releases and many other things. And because it's built by Oracle, also allow you to control changing on PL SQL for Oracle, SQL, Oracle Apex, and many more, like, as per example, autonomous databases. Oracle just released the always free autonomous database, a very generous free tier to you play with all these things. Now I'm going to show you a short video that shows you how to create and install Developer Cloud Services with your existing repository if you have a Git repository on your laptop. It will not be translated, but has subtitles in English, not in Japanese. Apologies for that.
Welcome to Oracle Developer Cloud Service, which we'll call DevCS for short. This video walks you through what you need to do to get up and running with DevCS as a developer working on a collaborative software project. The first thing we'll do is create and populate a project. In DevCS terms, a project is a collection of Git repositories, branch merge requests, wikis, issues, builds, and deployment configurations. All of the work you'll do in DevCS is in the context of a project. Click New Project to start. Give the project a unique name and description. Then select the security settings and language, or accept the defaults. Next, select Initial Repository. Choose a wiki markup language, and then select what kind of initial repository you want. Let's pick an empty repository and populate it later. Click Finish. DevCS provisions the project, and here's your project homepage. The recent activity feed reflects the work you just completed. Under Repositories, let's click the link for your new repository and see what's there. Here you can see basic setup information, including different ways to populate the repository. We'll use Git, but we could have imported content from a repository or pushed content to the project from a remote repository. Copy the git clone command, including the URL. Next, open a terminal window that has access to git commands and navigate to where we want to clone the repository. Paste the git clone command you copied to the command line and run it. Now we need to add source files for the project to the current folder and use git to add files to be committed. At this point, the files are staged, but aren't yet committed to the local repository. Next, we'll commit the files, adding a commit message for housekeeping purposes. The files will be committed to our local repository, called master. Finally, we'll push the files upstream to the remote repository, called origin. A new branch called master is created. Back on the project homepage, the recent activities stream shows that a new branch was created in the Git repository. The code page shows that the files are there, as expected. You can see our commit and our branch master. Now that you've got the repository...
Okay, I'm just going to cut over there because we only have 4 more minutes. And will be the faster 4 more minutes of my life. Apologies for the translators. But here you can see a list of most of the things that Cloud Developer Services can do to make improve your complete application life support, task tracking system, agile, code versioning, code review, build service. They can build service for you, test automation, automation service, allow you to create wikis, activity stream, code review. When I can do a change, I can send that to a peer review where he will review and approve or not. Only after he approve, then the change will be committed. I can have an issue tracking system, agile dashboards, and many reports. That means allow you to accelerate your time and value because developing faster and better is better to everyone. We use this internally in CloudDB. We have our 2 SaaS product, Como, that is a community project management system and events management system on SaaS, and CStat, that's now rebranded at CloudDB IF, your automation framework for databases. And you can see our 2 projects. You can see our developers, people working over there, and all the information right there. If I change it to the next step, I can see the project information for ZStat, where I can see the environments, how many instances I have created. I can create deployments and instances from my repository as I wish. I can see the activities from the newest to the older. I can see the Git repository that I'm using. I can also integrate to Maven, or I can integrate to Docker containers. And I can even automate and deploy containers too. I can go to my Git repository and see all the files that I have over there. And all the information with the dates. I can go to logs, reference, and also compare. If I click in a file, I can see the code inside the file. And I can even changes right here too. If I then switch that file to compare, he will show me the last changes done, the difference, the changes done, the new lines of the new changes that were done to that file. I can go to release, and I can control releases with binaries, builds, Maven artifacts, repositories, and notes. And a lot of things can be controlled. Due to the time restriction, I will not be able to do the demo because I have 1 minute left. But I leave you in this presentation with some resources where you have this blog from Oracle. They show you many examples playing with DevCS. This link takes you to many tutorials. Same as the one I was trying to do here is also there. This is the official documentation. This is the video that I just showed you before that you can go and watch completely if you want it, and 2 more interesting videos, tutorials about how to use this product. Due to time limitations, that's all I can do at the moment. I would like to say thank you to everyone. My business cards are here. In case you have any question, please feel free to contact me by my blog, Twitter, or email directly to me. I will be here today, the rest of the day, tomorrow, and on the last day. I have a session on the last day about the future of DBA and the changes of what the automation means to all IT professionals. And if you want to come, please, I will be appreciated too. But feel free to approach me between today, tomorrow, and after tomorrow. I promise I don't bite. And I'm keen to talk to anyone of any question. Thank you so much. Arigatou gozaimasu.